Should I stand or can I sit? Sorry. Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for coming. Yeah, stand up is better, I think. Yeah. First of all, I would like to say that our coming here is, I think, to get to know each other. As قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم إن جعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. In Indonesian first we said tak kenal maka tak sayang. It means if you don't know each other, there's no way to love each other. Okay, although in the brochure it says not loud enough. Okay, thank you. On the brochures it says education, Islamic education in Indonesia. But what I'm going to present here is something more specific, talking about pesantren in Indonesia. But if you have questions regarding Indonesian Islamic education in general, you are welcome to ask it later, because as mentioned before, we came here in groups, and there are some people, professors and doctors, who are from education faculty also, so we all can respond to the questions. All right, so it is pesantren in Indonesia. Has any one of you ever heard this word, pesantren? Except for Indonesian group. This question is... Okay, thank you. Thank you. This question is for the Turkish people. Have you ever heard?
No.
No? Yeah, because this is something very specific of Indonesian education. Here are some pictures about the situation in pesantren, what we call pesantren. And this is the explanation. Pesantren means a place for students to learn Islam, or Islamic boarding school, and primarily it's private. And there are two kinds of pesantrens so far we have in Indonesia. There's a traditional pesantren and there's a modern pesantren. Traditional pesantren, usually they are in rural areas. They have what we call traditional Islamic knowledge, and they have boarding school, they are full-time, and they have traditional leadership. What I mean by traditional leadership is that they always have, usually have charismatic figure. We call them kiai. So the kiai is the leader and he's the manager, and he decided everything. He's the highest of authority. So this is what we call traditional leadership. And there's another kind, which is a modern. They also offer what we call traditional Islamic knowledge, but in addition, they also provide secular science like math, computer, and etc. They adopt the model of boarding school also, but they have modern management style. So the leader usually elected through an election. interaction program, and they are mostly in urban areas. Before we go to pesantren, I would like to just give a brief overview about the kinds of Islamic schools, as the kinds of school we have in Indonesia. I have mentioned pesantren, and besides we have pesantren, we have madrasah, and another one is sekolah. So pesantren was what I mentioned before, and madrasah is, the subjects offered are mostly like in the pesantren, developed in the pesantren, but they are not in boarding school. They are just they're just schools, but they have religious subjects and they have non-religious subjects. So this is also what we call Islamic schools, madrasah. And sekolah, I think it's from English, school. Yes, sekolah is the public schools. This is what the Department of Education. Just to mention, we have two ministries in Indonesia, which is the Ministry of National Education and the Ministry of Religious Affairs, MORA. So schools, sekolah, they are under the Department of National Education. But madrasah and pesantren, their coordination is with the Ministry of Religious Affairs. Okay, I haven't mentioned about the word pesantren yet. Some reference said it comes from the Indian term santri, which means sastri, which means a person who is knowledgeable, religiously knowledgeable, and other terms which are related to pesantren is pondok. So it's common in Indonesia to say pondok pesantren or pondok net pesantren. We use it alternatively. Pondok is an Indonesian original word. That's the meaning. Usually it implies something, implies simplicity, implies modesty, but it means a place to shed. And because it is linked to the pesantren, and then it means dormitory or Islamic boarding school. And the students or the learners from this pesantren are called santri. We call them santri. It sounds like Indian. History of pesantren, just a little bit. Some reference say it was initially established as institutional in the 15th or 16th during the era of Wali Songo. Wali Songo are 9 walis from Java. There are people from Java here. They are much closer to Wali Songo, and they're very, very famous. They are religious leaders, Islamic religious leaders, resources, and some refer to their era as the establishment of the pesantren. But according to Zamakshari Dafir, this is one of our authority in Indonesia, it is actually can be traced back into the 19th century during the era of colonialization in Indonesia. So this learning usually at the beginning take places in houses. So people study from house to house, or at the house of the kiai, of the leader, and then develop into mosques, and then the term pesantren become more. Because why so? Because pesantren actually, this kind of institution was already there And before Islam came to Indonesia, it was Hinduism that was dominant in Indonesia, and this pesantren actually had been adopted as learning places for Hinduism, and then the development unfortunately adopted this term. During the colonial time, the pesantren grew very well, but mostly independent, and it already had political function, I can say, yeah, because it's usually, we can say, it functions as center of anti-colonialism, and it is a place for resistance of colonialism to organize rebellions and strategy of fighting colonialism. And because in this time, I think I need to mention that the most dominant colonialization in Indonesia is by the Dutch. They were there for about 350 years. But before that, it was the Portuguese, and then the Dutch for 350 years, and then the Japan for 3.5 years, and then we got our independence in 1945. So there were already Dutch schools, modern schools in that era, in the 19th. And the pesantren, as a community-based education, to respond to the needs of the people, of sort of education, had to compete with the colonial schools. Pesantren after Indonesian independence, 1945 and up to present. The function then slightly moved into a kind of nation building, and it became more related to the government. It's become less independent, and it's become having more. Seen as an effort of integrating into the national education system. They started including non-religious subjects. I was talking about the traditional pesantren, started including non-religious subjects, and started implementing government curriculum for their secular subjects. And more specifically, it started including Pancasila, civic education. Pancasila is very special in Indonesia. One day there was a professor from Ilahiyat, I think, he mentioned that Indonesia is very interesting because we have this Pancasila. Have you ever heard about Pancasila? Pancasila. Yeah, it's the 5 pillars.
Ideology, like etatism, and then republicanism, and then something like this.
Okay.
It's very similar to Indonesian basic.
Yeah. So five pillars of the basic constitution of Indonesia. Actually, the first one is one deity. So instead of mentioning Islam as the basic of the state, it says one deity because we have, Islam is, we can say 90% of the population is the population of Muslims, but besides that, we also have a big number of Christians, Hindu and Buddhists. Yeah, so one deity, so that everyone else can be included. It's a big compromise from the Muslim part to other religious groups in Indonesia. And the second is just and civilized humanity, just and civilized humanity. The third one is the unity of Indonesia. And the fourth one, I think, democracy. The fourth one is democracy, but led by a representative. And the fifth is, what is it? Social justice. I can say social justice, yeah. Some people even see this Pancasila as something compatible with what the Prophet done with Medina Charter, Piagam Medina, for religious tolerance. Okay, and it's also include skill-oriented subjects like agriculture, craft, business, and etc. This is one interesting point also. Until the 1910s, the pesantren were mostly for men, for male students, for boys. It's only for boys. Girls sometimes receive instructions, but not in a class like that, differently. But interestingly, since 2001 or 2002, of course it changed all the way. And in 2001, 2002, the enrollment of female students equals or even exceed the male students. Okay, this is just, we can see, this is, although I prepared this, but this is too dichotomic. Is to compare the orientation of non-pesantren and the pesantren education, but it's not really so. This is very sharp opposition, but in fact, it is not this hard, so just skip this one. And okay, basic elements of pesantren. First, we can mention mosques. Mosques is very dominant because this is the most places they conduct these teachings. And religious teachers, we call them kiai or ustad. Or for the female, usually the wife of the kiai, we refer to them as nyai. And usually more than one. Nyai. The wives of the kiai, we refer to them as nyai. And us, these nyai are also authority, especially for the ladies. And other elements for the pesantren is what we call kitab kuning. We call it kitab kuning in Bahasa Indonesia. It means yellow books. Yellow books. Maybe because the books. Maybe because the books usually very old. It's classic book, and then it turned yellow, and then yeah, it's famous with the yellow books. No longer white book. But the content is Aqidah, primarily Aqidah, fiqh, and also Tasawwuf and Arabic grammar. So we call them. So they don't refer to the title of the books or the subject, but they say yellow book, learning yellow book. Another element, as I mentioned before, is dormitory. Languages. Arabic is very dominant. And yeah, Malay or Indonesian, of course. And English. And later on, they started adopting other foreign languages. So some pesantrens have French, Germany, and also Japan. Mandarin, because Mandarin is Chinese is now training, yeah, for the need of the trade communication for the business. Organization, pesantrens nowadays. Previously they were independent, but nowadays they are mostly funded by supported by foundations, and it comes from wakaf or even the zakat comes through the government, and they also have their own resource, financial resource. Usually they have cafeteria, bookstore, laundry services. Yeah, laundry services is very common in Indonesia because yeah, it's not like here. You live in one place and you can have your own laundry there. It's very different. In Indonesia, maybe working people, they are very busy, they don't have time to do their laundry, and their laundry service is provided. So you just bring your clothes there and you will be charged per kilo. So this is a good business opportunity. So they have laundry services, guest houses, and also there are some sponsors. Government subsidies and support from NGOs or political parties. Some political parties. And of course this becomes more difficult a little bit burden to the pesantren if some political parties are involved in their financial things. And also international funding, Middle East, Arab countries, and the West.
Also Turkey.
Yes.
Turkey?
Yes.
Yeah, including yeah, for some yeah. Including Turkey. Yeah, we have Turkish schools there. We have Turkey. One graduate is over there. I know. The West. Yeah. Unfortunately, Turkey is also West. It's Indonesian. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's in the form of books, building libraries, and yeah, financial. I think it's in yeah, mostly cash is not common. Yeah, support in form of cash is not really common, and also. I think I need to mention one example of the Western program. It's like we have this LAPIS. It's the brochure you mentioned before. I work there also. A LAPIS program. LAPIS is a program founded by the Australian government, and they have many programs in Indonesia, including yeah, improving the quality of teachers, because in the past history, the quality of these Islamic schools were, yeah, relatively lower compared to public schools. This is just one example of the organization of the pesantren structure. I think we can just keep that. This is another thing. Maybe you have heard Muhammadiyah in Indonesia. Yeah. Yeah, this is the two main colors of.
Just click on OK. Click on OK. That's it.
Oh, you got it.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So some pesantrens are affiliated to the Muhammadiyah group, and some are affiliated to the Nahdlatul Ulama group. And There are some which we call Salafi pesantren. Okay, maybe the words down here is a little bit hard. We can just skip that. It's a little bit, yeah. The culture of pesantren, teacher and student relationships, charisma, blessing, strong loyalty, respect. It means the teacher respects their teacher, the students respect their teachers highly. So, it's okay, student. They are very obedient, they are very polite to the teachers. And sometimes they brought this culture to university. You know, we all teach in Islamic universities, and when we have one class of pesantren alumni, in my place we have this international tafsir hadith class, and they are all from the pesantren because of the language requirement for the class. They need to have good English and Arabic to be admitted to the class. So it ended up that the whole class, the whole 25 of the students in class were alumni from a pesantren. And you know what happened every time we teach? Because I was teaching English in this class, and every time a teacher finished to teach, each one of them come to the teacher and kiss the hand. You can imagine how it takes time. 25 people. Every time you finish teaching, every end of classroom teaching, they're very, very obedient. But it's very touching. Sometimes we even have a personal relationship with female students, and it's also actually it's very nice from my perspective. I think it's like a step for taking time. And to some extent, in the pesantren, the bless of your teacher is the bless of God. So you cannot disappoint your teacher, because the bless of God comes through the teachers. Yeah, it's close. We can see the notes of Sufism here. So. It's also believed that you cannot get knowledge, you cannot get true knowledge, earn true knowledge if you are disobedient to your teachers. So this is very special. A student and students friendship, networking, pesantren and surrounding community. They are mutually beneficial. I say this because people are helping the pesantren, and alumni of the pesantren again recycled into, go back to the people and become important people, and they become important figures and building the community. These are some activities of the students. Some pesantren, modern pesantrens, are musical performance, and fine arts. Curriculum. This the curriculum from the Department of Religious Affairs. It seems here very old. It's been developed actually. Yeah, there has been a curriculum development. Yeah. And this is what we call religious knowledge from the curriculum. Yeah. This is just Islamic philosophy of education. This is just the background of the whole activities. God centers, voluntarism, community-based and orientation, simplicity, controlled freedom, independence, and practicing knowledge. You need to practice what you know. You need to imply. not practicing, actually implementing of knowledge. So this is the teaching method, techniques. We call, there's one we call halakha. They're sitting in a semicircle, and the teachers sit in front. And there's memorization and reciting of the Quran, memorizing Arabic grammar. So when you meet someone from Indonesia, pesantren, I'm excluded. When you meet, some of them are here. When you meet someone from Indonesian pesantren, no doubt you can ask them about grammar. The most difficult questions of grammar you can ask them. They're very, very, very strong with grammar. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Grammar is very, very, very strong, very dominant. Sometimes they also have question and answers, but it's not the main method. Daily schedule. Students have to wake up at 4 o'clock. Prepare, reciting the Quran.
Sleep every day.
Every day, because they live in the boarding house. Every day. Some traditional pesantren even harder. Some have this philosophy that they cannot have sleep more than 3 hours. Yeah, some pesantrens. They cannot have sleep more than 3 hours or 4 hours. Some,
including teachers.
I don't know, including teachers.
Teachers excluding.
Teachers? Oh, teachers.
Young teachers.
Young teachers. Young teachers. Because senior teachers have their shifts. Yeah. They don't follow all activity all time. So that's why this is my personal confession. Because my children are still small, and it was a big consideration for me. Pesantren is tempting, so tempting. It's very popular, it's very good, it's very promising. But on the other side, oh, how can I let my child? It's very, very hard for him. He's just 11 years old, and yeah, the maybe later in.
Obama then?
Yes?
Obama was something that.
Yeah, school I want to ask.
Obama was in school.
Yeah, he was in Indonesia, but it was a public school, sekolah, the public school. And he became a president.
100%.
Unfortunately, he's not from the pesantren. If he was in pesantren, then we can say, we don't have to say much about the quality of pesantren. Still, activities, up to 23, up to 11 o'clock p.m. And then they will have sleep. Yeah, this is what, the broad role of the pesantren, we can say. We can say the producer of students who are well informed in Islamic studies, well versed in their original Arabic sources, and producers of the would-be ulama. And this is true when you look at people, outstanding people in Indonesia. They're mostly one of the presidents was actually one of our presidents Gus Dur Abdul Rahman Wahid. Abdul Rahman Wahid. Yeah, he's famous with. He was addressed with Gus Dur is respects. By respects, Gus Dur. He's a Kiai. He has a pesantren even from his ancestors, his father and grandfather, his founder. And they are, yeah, this is one affiliation. Gus Dur's family, Gus Dur's ancestry is one affiliation of, Nahdlatul Ulama, of pesantren. And the other kind is from Ahmad Dahlan, is the affiliation of the Muhammadiyah pesantren. Although, we've come across this, but I didn't mention it before. Muhammadiyah pesantren were usually renowned as a modern pesantren, and the Nahdlatul Ulama pesantren, because those sites are more traditional, conservative pesantrens. But in fact, nowadays, I think, in these eras, there are some thinkers, there are some philosophers, very reformative ones with shocking ideas, I can say. There are some young thinkers of Indonesia with shocking ideas and very, very modern ideas. People who are from this Nahdlatul Ulama affiliation. So the term conservative is getting blurred also, I think. The graduates now spread in all over the world in Indonesia. They can be businessmen, they can be teachers, politicians, journalists, novel writers. Some ladies here mentioned about Ayat Cinta when we met the other day. Yeah, he's one of the pesantren alumni. And novels and movies concerning the pesantren life is very popular now in Indonesia. It's a very best-selling. It's a best-selling in Indonesia. The people are getting more interested to know more about this pesantren. And the impact of pesantren, religiously, socially, economically, politically, globally, you mentioned. Contemporary problems. I don't know if this ever come to your heavens for terrorism. What do you think? Have you ever heard about it? The terrorism.
Heard about hell?
Imam Samudra, I think. Imam Samudra, Amrozi, Imam Samudra and friends, did you hear about them? Bali bombs, yes. Bali bomb, there are people from pesantren.
Yeah, from pesantren.
Yes, unfortunately. But I think this is a big question. There's no proof of that they are institutionally supported by the pesantren or Kiai. It's I tend to see it, and we here will see it as individual. It's their own individual matters. It's not. Some people still picture pesantren as something rigid and anti-modernism. Of course, this can be easily denied when you're looking at the development of pesantren. Competition with government schools. This is also moving brighter, I can say, because broadly put, some parents think like this: if you want your children to be intelligent, to be clever, send them to public school. And if you want your children to be kind, so not very clever, send them to traditional pesantren school. But if you want your children to be smart and kind and nice, all together, send them to the modern pesantren. So, pesantren is, and also people, the payment, I think there's an economical change here also. Yeah, the payment for enrollment of the pesantren is usually very low because it's, from the beginning, it came out from the community and it functioned to serve the community. And then the role changes a little bit. One of our friends here has a research on the impact of capitalism on the pesantren, because they're competing with the public schools offering good subjects, secular subjects, promising outcomes. And they can compete internationally, nationally and internationally. But then the payment is, it has to be modified. In other words, pesantren is become more expensive and to some extent unachievable to certain groups of people. And Islam and social problem, corruption, inequality. I don't have to say much of this. Okay, maybe I can stop here. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Would you like to take any questions?
Yes, you can take any question. Yes?
I have two questions. One is, are all pesantrens at the high school level?
Oh.
The second one, what's the percentage of pesantrens related to Harkat Muhammadiyah?
Okay. Sorry, I forgot to mention our system in Indonesia is that we have a 6-year elementary school and 3 years of junior high school, and then another 3 years for senior high school. So pesantren usually take this junior and senior high school. Yeah.
University. Some pesantren have university.
And some of them have university also.
Diplomas officially guarded by government, accepted by government, officially accepted by government.
The pesantren?
Yeah.
Yes. But let me go back to the question of Muhammadiyah. Can anyone help me here the percentage of pesantren affiliated to Muhammadiyah? Berapa persennya Muhammadiyah?
Muhammadiyah sekitar 30.
30%. 30%. Around 30%. Yeah, the Nahdlatul Ulama is bigger, but this is
So the trend is more to modern.
I would like to ask the percentage of pesantrens related to all of Indonesia.
modern.
Yes,
The modern.
high school level.
Pesantren yang umum Pak, yang tidak berafiliasi kedua-duanya.
Ya, pesantren modern banyak betul.
Berapa persen?
Itu sekitar 5%.
Smaller number, about 5%. Yeah.
You mentioned the
Yes.
yellow book and the white book you mentioned. When you say that, you mean the traditional subjects like traditional textbooks, and some of them are memorized. How did you go in those traditional textbooks? Like, for example, if you speak about the Islamic law, how did you go in teaching Islamic law in the Islamic? What's their variations?
What they did in the pesantren, I think, they sit down and read the book, read it correctly, grammatically correct, and then interpreted into Indonesians.
I see.
And then, yeah, individually they need to implement this knowledge they got from this book. But then, in fact, because yeah, the government is another question. So yeah, so they implement in them in their personal level. But so on certain things, yeah, we are ruled by the government's rules. Yes.
You mentioned some shocking ideas in reforming pesantren's. Can you give us an example?
Okay.
Some ideas about feminism, democracy.
What is sharpening the program?
Was taking her care
Yeah, some of them. I'd like to mention the feminism. Yeah, the democracy is more political. Yeah, some of them found themselves in agreement, in total agreement with, say, Amin Awadun. Yeah. Yeah, and
Among female students?
no, yeah, it's not from. Actually, it's from gentlemen. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, this is tricky, a little bit tricky because you know, related to feminism, every programs. There's CEDA programs, the government of Canada program, and there's the Australian program, Australian government programs on education. They all have to be implemented to the society, but through university. But the point is, all of these programs have to have the elements of feminism training. So it's yeah. And when you are involved in this program, and then and people who are in this area, we are very, very, I don't know. Some people tend to see it as something political, and just because they want to win the project or things like that. And I think I tend to see that some of them sincerely believe what they say. I can say so. Yeah.
How about teachers? Is there any foreign teachers or all of them from Indonesia?
In traditional pesantren, yeah, they have Indonesian teachers. But in some of the modern pesantrens, they have visiting teachers, even from the United States. They have this program of exchanging students also, and they have from Egypt, of course, always from Egypt, always, yeah. Even in the traditional pesantren, from the Islamic countries and from the Western countries.
I know Turkish.
Yeah. Yes, it's time.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Jazakumullah khairan, khair al-jaza, in fact. And I hope that our guests felt that they were at home here, and we are really trying to make our school here to be felt that way. And with your dua, inshallah, we will succeed that. Thank you again, sister, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I have your card for written communications? Also,
My card,
information. Yeah.
I don't have
Your
my
business
card.
card or.
But I can give you my email.
Yeah. Huh? Yes. I don't and your email also there,
yes.
So we can communicate. We can get those students that they are very respectful for teachers to get them here.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
They're nice students.
You made us feel like, wow, I would like to be teacher there.
Really? Yeah, I'm so happy teaching them. This is my address. post. Oh, you got a pen?
I don't have. I can write it here. I mean, but this will take more time. Though.
Kak pinjam pulpen.
That will be your name and I will. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this is. Can you read this? This is A-T.
This is A or E? E-T-Y-S-Y.
Yes, it is Sham.
Okay. Okay. Right. That will be enough. Then we'll just put it from.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sure. And then I will.
This my card.
Thank you very much.
You can. Yes. It's our email.
This is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you so much. He's from Makassar.